Good afternoon, everyone. I thank you for your time and your effort in coming here to listen to all of us. Uh, this is my sixth collection of poetry, and after kind of five collections on Indian mythology and some very Indian kind of poetry, I decided to write something very on the theme of immigration. And I'm going to read a few poems to you from there. The poems that form, this is from my sixth collection of poetry from Immigrant Diaries. The poems that form the sixth volume of poetry tell the stories of those who have left their homelands to start a new life. These poems straddle, of course, two cultures, two lands, two languages, or multiple languages, and find the truth in experience. They witness border crossings, new beginnings, acts of racism and discrimination, and homesickness. Some of my poems address and explore the existential dilemma of what it means to be an immigrant, and others offer insight into the lives of immigrants, of the challenges of life caught between two cultures. Let me read out a poem called A Kind of Identity Remorse. Locke, that's John Locke, the philosopher. Locke wrote about it as a kind of psychological continuity that seems like Orebus teneo lupum, the proof for migration patterns displacing the idea of what existed before and after, like everything being rooted out. Is there a kind of totem pole that draws in a confrontation? Those kind of necessary and sufficient conditions that the cultural doctor draws out as felix culpa from our innards, perhaps when you almost think differently. Brown, white, black, the colors are still the same. Coral bells, a chicory, forget-me-not, or a purple calla lily, chocolate cosmos, black dahlia, white dahlia, black pansy, white pansy, black petunia. The sun will bloom them all, paint them whither you will. Where the Cartesian constructions divides us, Locke would find proof enough for the classical elements to stay the same. Plant them where you will. A new identity will not flame, nor will philosophy change a granite essence. Nor do we need the former bridges from rolling up when tongues and accents change, unearth new clothing, bring in new consciousness, sometimes rusted out, discriminate by the intensity of the sun's blaze. The grass may have overgrown, the weeds pulled out disingenuously, the proof that we are still the same, inspired into new relationships, stories that will survive. Blessed are they who never left their homeland. I'll read a poem called Discolored. This is on the issue of colorism. As long as racism is a problem in society, colorism will likely continue to be. Discrimination based on color remains a problem worldwide, with victims turning to desperate remedies, of course, to buffer themselves against one another. Increasing one's awareness of colorism, that's the preferential treatment of color, and understanding its practices may help us counter the historical abuses and wrongs that colorism promotes. The title of the poem is Discolored. Yesterday afternoon, the sun spoke to me, slowly, lazily, cheekily, carefully checking me for after effects with its flashbulb scans. I looked back at the glowing red, befuddled. My captive soul knew a riptide for its message. Why would I wear safety eyewear? For we are all birds in flight, loosened upon a fissured planet, branded by the color of our skin tone and type. I cling to my roots that turns into a no answer, cut loose, my fate blooming in brown earth. My pain turns into no response. Like a black slash of lightning, somber messenger of fate. I am my own little garden, content to be raking my kind of grass, and the plants do not question adrift in my shadow, nor of color or which color, those dreadful clocks of colorless seasons sealed. I hate the piece of coloring and its weird lies, endured beyond the black like me poppings. I scream with pain, squeak, throw buckets of water, a voyager on green mountains, sun-blocked. Sorry, so sorry. So sorry about that. In some of my poems, I pit Gabriel Garcia Marquez's concept of multiple births against the experience of immigration. Leaving one's family behind, observing objects in fragments of moments to convey how fragmented the entire experience of leaving one's country and one's culture behind can be. The title of the poem is Diverse. Variety is just a potholed causeway, the Orange Man noted, speculating about this motley ring, a passage full of fools. And history is the present tense of skin tags, sticking out, flying in mute shades, as in a void, with a white pennant sticking, diaphanously strutting, thundering cheap rhetoric about the beauty of probabilities, skin tones, facilitate the suspension of logic. Different perspectives provoke productivity, and yet one stays strictly slotted in grooves. Comfort itself wears artful shapes of sameness. Between the thudding sounds of cultures, a strange line of beliefs persist, breed normative for clothes between soft-strung, clinging values, nurtured by centuries of ethnic types. There is little to imagine in the receding light. Shapes and forms quicken, then burst, skin-etched, the pagan drama of religious identification charged by blasts of rules that rise and falter, take umbrage from new ways of falling out, rebirthing, those multitude of skin shades superlatively superimposed by imperialistic tones of super wide, widening from yellow to complete black, replaced as contours of the cracks. Less is a kind of scale, the superior tones crunching, the paler types designed to be so undone. I'm interested kind of in the predicament of those who are undocumented and whose collective memory is invoked through the imagery of varied floral motifs in a poem that's called Undocumented. Like wildflowers, they cross-pollinate, unaccounted for, transcend boundaries scattered with hushed glances, yellow, indigo, the colors of an abandoned last chapter, like butterfly milkweed, freely oozing toxins, yet armored with latex oozing of their happy wandering in wilderness. An intense desire to blend, to disguise like putty root orchids, warming themselves into uncaring backgrounds, withering before they bloom, opening and closing, the threat of being barred forever, eddying around, swirling, like sunken, sinking, almost sunk, breath by every breath. Carry their native soils on their shoulders, while foreign voices drown them out, sullen-breeched, hoarse threats, unsure of themselves, running away from color-drenched absences, moaning within, scarred from scorns and thorns. If only their hate could wither that which cannot be answered. In a poem titled Illegal, I use the template of a game to project the duality that merges beyond the narrow constructs of language, a kind of dialogue between rules and its lack, the legal and the illegal, the self and its others. Poem is titled Illegal. As in a game ordered by someone, shade or star, as in a fine oblivion of dates and names, we wait in the shadow of the tall grass for a trick of appearing, of disappearing. As in a card game, the king dominates, breaking all illusions of belonging. Though we try to break through the walls, push them aside, strive for clear, stable, and firm ground. As in a game of waiting, stop or start, as in a game of uncertainty, diamonds and jacks, unscrewed from their shining, smooth structures, we toss fistfuls of them into the air. As in a ball game, there is soft precision, if not of wandering, then a flustered, painful glimpse as messengers run back and forth, the hope contained in a darkening sky. As in a game of cops and robbers, there is always a finite dodge, capture time, random graph, connected, undirected paths, planar graphs, repeated positions, grids, hypercubes, until. Not enough can be said or written about the metaphor of identity in any discourse on the subject of immigration. There's a poem titled Rooted. So, all of you are rooted, most of you are rooted, but those who transplant themselves get uprooted and obviously grow new roots. So I'm trying to convey here a subtle dialogue between tone and cadence as one is uprooted from one's roots. The soul obviously is in duress, in anguish. So this is an art of transmutation, resisting a familiar and a familial narrative. The poem is titled Rooted. We see them for a moment, those kernels, and then they disappear, teasing us with their material content, leaving us with a kind of dissatisfaction, underground nodes of ourselves, cut off, exploded, multiplied. Then, having read about Astvastha, the cosmic tree in divine self-regard, we may reverse direction, hanging on with supernatural force, live loose forever, otherwise alone, adrift. There is always a horizontal axis. The axis has always been there, holding up toward the blue sky and the brown earth, carefully diagrammed, sometimes pushed vertically up, the way the branches grow, neither cut down nor up, but fall naturally, footloose at the beginning, when those guardian angels go amok, absolutely. They have the gift of reminding you that the amplitude of life runs a downward course, hardly improved by sharing thoughts. Only memories blend, puzzled, gathered. They come into being, then pass out their vascular order in leaves, branches, veins. The ancient wisdom gets distributed, nor neglect their hidden secrets enshrined. We collect data of good and evil, trace their link with the underworld land of the dead. We become their diverse voices, skins, race, untethered when the trunk separates.